What's going on, everyone? Coming at you with a somewhat of a garage project here. What we've got here is what I call a battery harness that I've been building for my power tools for a while now. This is an old battery from my Ingersoll Rand 1/2-inch impact gun. And what I've done is I've taken the cells were largely dead. I've taken the old cells out, drilled a hole in the side for some wires, attached those wires to the positive and negative terminals, ran about 15 feet of wire out to some spade connectors, and these spade terminals fit perfectly onto some small 12-volt lead acid batteries that I have. I run two in series for 24 volts. Now this is an 18-volt tool, but it seems to be perfectly happy on 24 volts. I got the impact gun used for $50 on eBay, I think. So if it dies, it dies on 24 volts, but it's been fine for years using it this way. And this is a great way to sort of sidestep buying new batteries for your cordless tools and increase your runtime using some big lead acid batteries. The two I have that I use in series are 12 amp hour, which is obviously much more than you could cram into here. So the problem I'm running into with this one is the wires I used. I think this is 14 gauge, and I have a huge spool of this I got for a few dollars at a garage sale. I'm talking like hundreds of feet. It was a great deal. So it's been sort of my go-to wire for years and years now for anything that has any kind of current going through it. But I realized that I did a measurement once with this under load, and it was pulling at 24 volts. It was pulling about 30 amps, and running the math on that, I'm dropping about 4 volts on the entire length of the wire round trip here, which is pretty significant. Could definitely be reducing my speed on the rotational speed on the impact. So I'm on a quest to beef up the wire gauge here. I've got 15 feet roughly, I think it was 5 meters of, this is 8 gauge, high strand count silicone, very bendy. That was another disadvantage of this. This was a low strand count 14 gauge. It's a little bit stiff. It's hard to coil up. It's not really useful in the garage when I'm trying to drag things around. So I got the more flexible wire here and some more sheathing. These two were an AliExpress purchase. It was well under $40 shipped for this set, and this is like I said, I think 5 meters of wire, both red and black. So I'm just going to build a new two wire cable here, and I figured I'd kick this off before I get started and show you the process start to finish, and hopefully inspire you to make one for a line of tools that you have. I transplanted up to my shed because that's where most of my electronic stuff is, but I got the 2 wires sheathed in the sheathing. A quick comment on this sheathing: you could use like zip ties along the length to secure the 2 pieces of cable together, but I found that if you're running it through your hands to coil up, those kind of chew up your hands. So I think it's worth the extra few dollars for sheathing like this. And it's not as flexible as I was hoping overall with the 2 cables bound together, but it's a drastic improvement over the old 14 gauge. So that's done, and now I'm going to focus up on the battery. I got it, or I guess the battery shell at this point. I got it open, got the old wire here. Just going to unsolder from this connector, kind of feed the cable in, get this soldered in, buttoned up and secured, and then we'll move on to the other end with the spade connectors, which I dug up a few here. I hope I have the right ones to fit. Quick update here. Added the cable through the hole, and I had to make it a little bit bigger. I drilled it out to 1/2 inch and then used an end mill to kind of rough out an oval shape, since that's the shape of the cable with the 2 wires side by side. And I added, this is so like self-adhering electrical splicing tape. It's pretty thick, and it doesn't really feel sticky, but it adheres to itself. Ideally I would put some heat shrink on here, but I don't have anything big enough, so gotta run what you brung. And that's just if I can kind of work this back in here, that's just an extra buffer on the casement here so that it doesn't wear it through the sheathing or the shielding of the wire, or the wire insulation. So I'm adding some zip ties as a strain relief so it can't pull through. I think I'm going to wrap some more of this tape around the zip ties as an extra layer of security, and then kind of do the same thing on the outside. I don't want it completely rigid. A little bit of movement is fine, but I do want to make sure it can't pull through and tear the terminals out of the ends of the wires. So I'll keep plugging away at that. All right, quick update here. Pretty much have the battery portion done. Not sure where I left off on the filming of this strain relief, but I just gave some extra wraps of that tape around the outside and added some zip ties for some extra securement. it's pretty solid, and I'm happy with how it came out. Attached the wires to this inside like clip thing that protrudes through the battery with the tool connections, and I added some extra tape on this connection here because the heat shrunk on the hot wire before I could slide it all the way up. So I'm pretty happy with that, how that came out. Working with high gauge wires like this can be difficult, but some patience is good. I had the soldering iron up to about 800 Fahrenheit and just let the wire heat up for a few seconds and it'll start to accept some of the solder. So I'm gonna get the battery reassembled and then we'll start working on the other end. All right, everyone, here's the finished product. I'll take you from start to finish. I grabbed the impact and plugged it into the battery end here. Cable goes around, and here's the end of the sheathing here to where I split the wires. I added some heat shrink over the wires themselves for some added protection, and then used some of that splicing tape and secured it with a few zip ties for extra insurance. So the end of the sheathing is secured under here. This frays incredibly easily, so you wouldn't want the loose end. It's just kind of hanging around. You definitely need to secure it with something. And then just a foot or so of cable at the end here that I added these female spade connectors onto so it can accept the battery terminals here. These are the two lead acid batteries I use, the two in series for 24 volts for this impact. This jumper here is just a piece of 10 gauge scrap I had laying around with some additional spade connectors. I know it doesn't match the 8 gauge, but the voltage drop across 2 inches here is so insignificant, even at 30 amps. I don't really care. And just did the same thing over here, of course. These spade connectors, I had to finagle a little bit. They were built for 10 gauge, and I had to stretch a little bit to get the 8 gauge in there, but I made it work and added some heat shrink. Nothing real fancy there. So that's the finished product for this. The impact already sounds faster. I don't have any frame of reference, of course, for you for the old one, but this is just, you know, under no load, it doesn't really matter. It sounds faster. It's under load that we'll have to see how the performance improves. But if my calculations are correct, I should be dropping only about 1 volt across this 8 gauge wire at 30 amps, as opposed to the 4 and change volts that were being dropped before. So if you want to do this for some of your tools, ideally you should take a measurement with like a DC current clamp at full load, whether it be a drill or reciprocating saw or impact or whatever, and kind of get an idea how much current you're pushing, and then see if you can use maybe a DC power supply, or if you want the mobility of the batteries, that's a great option too. But that will help you size the wires, and you can figure out what kind of voltage drop you can live with. And of course, depending on the length, I could shorten this to 3 feet and it wouldn't really matter. I could probably run the 14 gauge much better, but I like to have the extra length. Like I said, this is 5 meters or about 18 feet, which is the entire length of my garage. So I can kind of put these in the corner and just get to any wheel or tire or work anywhere on any vehicle. So that's just the convenience factor. That's why I got the extra length. You could pick up just 2 meters of this and make a shorter one for a lot less money. And that's an option as well. I think I might have to beef up this split here. It's just, kind of threw it together with what I have. Maybe some heat shrink if I can cobble together the right size. this is what I had laying around for now. And I think I used a lot of tape on this strain relief. It's a little bit floppier than I wanted, but I think it won't pull out, and it'll do its job to protect the interior. But we'll see how that lasts. This might kind of loosen up over time, so we'll keep an eye on that. And I think that's about it. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this will give you some ideas for your own battery harness or sort of power supply for your cordless tools. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.